Hi guys, I'm live. How you guys doing? Yeah, so don't. So remember, I got 6 million views on my channel today. I passed 6 million today. So thank you guys for watching. Help me with that. Help me do that. I want to talk about government and society trends, how they relate. And I hate to say it only in the sense that you're not going to want to hear it, maybe. But I don't hate to say it in the sense that I'm glad I know the truth about it. And I don't hate to say it in the sense that I'm glad I'm not like the masses that are mesmerized into not knowing the truth about it. But I'm just talking. I hate to say it in that sort of a sense. To me, first of all, the word government means mind control. Govern means to govern, to control. Ment is short for mental, so control the mind control. Cars have governors on them that keep the car from going as fast as it really could, because the people that make the cars don't want the drivers to really drive as fast as the car really can go. Well, the people that rule the world don't want us to really think as freely as we really could, so they have to govern our minds to keep us from doing so. And the stupid and the weak follow and end up getting mind controlled and following the crowd and all that. So that's kind of what I'm going to discuss in this video and trying to discuss. So to me, like I said, to me, political states or ways that our society are in at any given time are just governmental fashion trends. That's all it is. The government has a plan for you, how you should think and when you should think it. And they have a reason, because they want to eventually control you. And they do it in steps, and each step has a different way of thinking that the government espouses, and therefore wants and expects and gets you to believe. And it changes each decade or whatever. And I've been through a few decades of it, so I know firsthand some of this has happened in my lifetime. And I noticed it all through the times I've noticed, which I'm going to go through those a little bit with you. I noticed all through the times I've lived in, it was the stupidest, weakest people that just did what the crowd said and did what the government said, and watched TV and believed the president or whoever is telling them how to control their mind or wanting to control their minds. And I never bought into any of it, ever. I just did what I believed in. Hence, I became Shirtless Guy. And I never fit in. I never fit in with any of the periods I've lived through. But in hindsight, I haven't been wrong yet. In hindsight, I did it right, and I believe I'm doing it right now. But I can't prove that because we're not a decade or two later yet. But I'm just going to go through a little bit with you and see if you guys want to hate me for it or not, or whatever you want to think, or maybe you like me what I'm saying. The earliest decade I've ever lived in is the 60s. I was born in December 66. My first summer on Earth out of the womb was the summer of love, which of course I was only 0 years old, but that was literally the first summer I experienced on Earth. It was very free time, drugs, sex, you name it. And you got away with it because it was the current fashion. It was the current governmental fashion trend at the time. Governments weren't busting drug people. Governments weren't busting nude love-ins where people would be naked in huts on the beach and fucking in planes practically broad daylight. It was the fad of the time. Well, we can't have that, though. People that rule the world are saying as they twiddle their thumbs. So move on to the 70s. We cracked down harder on drugs, less free sex, but still a community of love and peace that came from the music scene. You still had a togetherness. You still had some drugs, only you got in trouble if you did them this time. You could have some sex, but you better get a room. And the music was good, but you didn't have 3-day festivals, but you did have rock and roll, and you did have good times and free spirit and driving in red Corvettes and fast cars and wearing bikinis and stuff like that in the summer and all that. So it was a good time. But alas, we don't want that as the world rulers twiddle their thumbs. Let's go to the 80s. Well, you got to get wild first before it all dies. Things have to get worse. Things have to get better before they get worse. So the party really amped up in the 80s. I was there. Lots of drugs, but boy, you sure got busted. Lots of sex, but boy, you sure got busted. You better be really careful, or your 6'4" girlfriend's dad is going to shoot you with a shotgun. It was stricter, but you still had wildness. You still had wild good times. You still had a rebellious spirit that was more or less tolerated by the government. They didn't really crack down as hard as they really could have, because the 80s were a wild fucking decade, and I loved it. The best decade there ever was on this planet, and I lived right through it in my teens. That's when the party was over. The government people said, no, we're going to take away their rock and roll, we're going to replace it with fucking Nirvana. And they weren't even allowed to smile. Did you know that? If Nirvana smiled, if he ever smiled, they got caught smiling, they would have fired him. They would have replaced him. He would have lost his record deal. It was a very negative, dark decade. I spent most of it homeless, but functionally. The music was very dark and serious, and no solos, no guitar solos. That wasn't cool anymore, as Kurt Cobain laughed all the way to the grave. LOL. Even though I don't believe he shot himself. I think he was suicided. I think they killed him for some reason. They didn't want him alive. There's no way he killed himself. The crime scene was a setup, and there's no way that he could have pulled off that. The suicide of that crime scene was above his pay grade. But whatever, that's not what this video is about. So the 90s were the taking away of the fun. You couldn't do drugs in the 90s, or they just busted you. You couldn't have sex. You just get AIDS, or they just put you in jail, and that would be the end of that. But now we want the 2000s, PNAC, Project for a New American Century. I've seen pictures of Bush shaking hands with God knows who over this. Which Bush, I don't know. They all look the same to me. I don't mean my Bush, I mean George's. But anyway, they had the Patriot Act on us in 9/11, 2001. Boy, isn't that guy cool? Anyway, there hadn't been a coup that big since the Kennedy thing, the 9/11 thing and the Patriot Act. Now they really got us by the balls. Now they got us feeling like we need the government to protect us. Gosh, we need the government to help us with these awful people that bombed our buildings on whatever day. Please help us, government. We'll turn to you and do whatever you say. So we will spy on each other, even ourselves. We will let you spy on everybody, including ourselves. Everybody will be afraid of everybody else, and everybody will be more afraid of everything than they are than everything else. Everything's afraid, everybody's afraid. Everything's afraid of everybody, and everybody's afraid of everything. And that's basically where we are now. They just needed one last thing with the COVID thing to make us fear for our actual health, so we don't even want to shake hands anymore. And everybody's afraid that everyone else is a terrorist or a stalker or God knows what. And I don't follow it. I'm not in that. I don't care what this is the worst mind controlled state I've lived in. And I've lived 59 years. Anyway, love you guys, peace, love, and rock and roll.